I'm James Hogan.
And I'm Stacy Miller, and this is the October 2025 edition of Western Wednesdays.
Well, welcome to Western Wednesdays. I'm James Hogan, the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Engagement. With me, Stacy Miller. Stacy.
Happy fall.
Happy fall.
It's here.
I've got a few for you. You ready?
Ready.
Just a bit outside.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
like that? If you build it, they will come.
Field of Dreams. It's a good one.
Yep. There's no crying in baseball.
Oh.
Okay. Last one. You're killing me, Smalls.
Carson would be so proud of you.
I know.
Sandlot. He would be so very proud of you right now.
Can you guys guess what this episode's going to be about? It's the second episode of Western Wednesdays that we filmed in a baseball stadium. And this month's guest, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for
Zebby Matthews.
Zebby Matthews.
That's right. Zebby
You're
Matthews.
supposed to give it more of an announcer voice, Stace.
I don't have that one in me, but Zebby Matthews, class of 21 from the College of Business, and a finance major.
A finance major who is a major league pitcher.
That's right.
Guys, if you don't believe we work really hard to bring you very interesting guests on Western Wednesdays, a finance major on a pitcher's mound.
That's right. Zebby Matthews, currently with the Minnesota Twins organization. We had a great time up in Minneapolis.
Brought my baseball hat back.
That's right.
We have matching baseball hats now. Zebby and I, and you and I guess too. Sam's got one as well. I thought about wearing it, but anyway, it is a WCU show. And married to Kendall, who is class of 2023.
That's right,
It's
Kendall
so
White.
sweet.
We had a great time up there with them, and we happened to go up to Minneapolis on family weekend.
That's right.
That was a lot of fun getting to see that. So
I love that
excited.
conversation, and we want to get you straight to it. But right now, before we throw it to you, I want you to think about what is the least likely walk-up song that a major league pitcher could ever say he had in college, and we'll see on the other side of the interview if you were right. So get in your ideas and your guesses right now.
I love it.
Zebby Matthews, welcome to Western Wednesdays. It is so incredible to join you here at Target Field in beautiful Minneapolis.
Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it? It's a great place to come to work every day.
I was going to say, this is your office, huh? So, got a bunch of guys hanging out down there. They were striping the field earlier, painting the grass, and this guy's going to water everything down. It's game day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Red Sox are coming into town, so it'll be fun.
It's going to be a good one.
Red Sox are going to come into town later today. We're going to get a chance to see that game, and so exciting. You're not pitching, though, which is why we got to talk to you today, which makes total sense. But I want to start off. Zebby, you've been pitching here with the Minnesota Twins. This is your second season working with the Twins organization. But let's start back. You are, I think, the first Cullowhee native to be on Western Wednesdays. How did you get from Cullowhee to Cullowhee and onto the baseball team at WCU?
Yeah, it was an interesting story, to say the least. I didn't have any real intentions of wanting to go there out of high school. You went to
Smoky Mountain?
I went to Smoky Mountain. That is correct. I went there, and then, kind of a late bloomer. I think like a lot of high schoolers. And then the recruiting process wasn't exactly easy for me. I had a lot of small offers, nothing that I really wanted. And then late my senior season, I think UNC Wilmington came to offer me. They came and watched the game, I think, against our rival Franklin there.
Yeah. Big game.
They came to watch a game, and, I guess I did good enough. They offered me, but just wasn't the right fit for me there.
Right.
And then so I went to junior college for a year over at Walter State. And then now my really good friend Taylor Sandifer was taking the pitching coaching job at Western, and he came and watched me that fall at Walter State, and he got me an offer there back to Western, and it was too good of an offer. I couldn't refuse.
Yeah.
And then being able to play in the hometown was not something I had thought about doing, but it definitely made it a lot better.
You got to come back. You got to be at the hometown university. Your family was there. I know that's something that makes a difference when you've got people in the stands who can cheer for you and be there at every game. When you came back to Western, how many people in the organization did you know? Coaching staff, players. Was there anyone else on that team that you really knew yet?
Not really. So I knew the coaching staff a little bit, just 'cause I had attended some camps there throughout high school and some the youth camps I had attended, but I wasn't. I don't think I was up to the standard yet that they wanted in a player.
Sure.
That's a nice way I'll put it. Sorry, Coach Mo, but that's a nice way I'll put it. No, but it was I went to very fortunate to have gone to Walter State, really good program over there. I grew a lot there, and then was able to come back and start on the weekends there at Western, which was really special. But I didn't know anybody there originally. I had met Coach Taylor Sandifer and Austin Neary, another Western alumni. I was hanging out at his house, and Taylor Sandifer had just got the job, and he was staying there for a couple weeks, and got introduced, and he said, "I'm going to come watch you that fall," and it all worked out really well. So Austin Neary deserves some credit there for the connection, but
He'll take it.
he will take it. But it was, I didn't know anybody, but it was definitely made a lot of really good relationships there.
What's it like? Taylor Sandifer is a unique individual, and a Catamount alum himself. But what's it like? Because you're pretty reserved, and he is anything but.
Yeah.
So what was that mix like?
We kind of fit in really well together. He's very outspoken, outgoing, and I wouldn't describe myself that way. So to have that kind of relationship, I came in and I was the typical, I had a really good year in junior college. So I thought I knew everything. And he was kind of like, hey,
broke you down real quick.
He was like, hey, you don't
Maybe not.
You don't know as much as you think you do. So then it was that fall there was very interesting. There was a lot of tweaks going on, a lot of different trial and error type things that he was presenting me, and I was all on board with, because he's very good at his job. He knows what he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to just soak it all in and listen and try as much as possible. And it took a while for some things to click, but we got some things rolling there, and then was able to put together a pretty good career there at Western, and ultimately get here. But he deserves a lot of credit for the development that I had there at Western.
You did have a good career at Western, and definitely you talked about your growth from the time you got there to the time you left. But what's a core memory that you have from is there like a specific outing or a specific win or anything that that has stuck with you?
I remember the year. So I got hurt my second year at Western. So I wasn't able to pitch the last month of the season and into the SoCon tournament. But not being able to pitch, they still made a good run. I think we made it to the championship game that year, and it was really cool to see. Even though I wasn't able to contribute on the field, it was really cool to watch. The teammates, a lot of the guys that I had seen, they put in work all year, all fall, throughout the winter to see them still have the success and make a run at the SoCon championship there. In late May was really special. I think I was hanging out in the dugout. I was about to get a shot in my elbow, but it was really cool to watch those guys. They stepped up, and it was. I remember Jack Snyder throwing it felt like every inning in that tournament, and Zach Franklin, and it was nuts, but it was really awesome.
That's neat.
SoCon baseball is really competitive baseball. Yeah. There's some great players who come through the Southern Conference, through Western, but the other schools in the SoCon. That tournament in Greenville feels so big, when you're in that stadium. How did doing the work in the SoCon help to prepare you for this stage?
Yeah, it was, I would say the SoCon's more of a hitter's league. But I'm a little biased when I say that. Those 4
You try to make it less of a hitter's league.
Those 4 o'clock games at Western, that flag's always blowing out, so it makes it tough on the pitcher there.
Yeah.
But the level of competition, I don't think it quite gets the credit it deserves.
Yeah.
In that conference, top team to bottom team, like all the teams, they're very talented, but it's a very scrappy kind of way of baseball.
Yeah.
Teams put pressure on you.
Yeah.
They like Wofford, like VMI, they steal bases. So you really have to be very fundamentally sound. Playing in that league, and then ultimately it's the grind of the league. You get I think 7 or 8 different series, and then your midweeks. For mid-major, you're always traveling on the midweeks. So having to travel on midweeks and then be ready for the weekend series too. It definitely prepares you a lot for life in the minor leagues and in the major leagues as well.
balancing schoolwork, I mean, it's tiring, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not just like you don't get on a jet
Well,
to
and-
go to Stanford, right?
Right.
You
No.
get on a bus.
Yeah.
And baseball is not your major.
Right.
I mean,
right.
you know, so
Unfortunately, it wasn't. As much as I wish it was,
So you have
unfortunately.
that added to it, right? I mean, there, you know, it is to your point. You know, you're on that bus, and so many times, as you know, like that Wi-Fi's spotty in the mountains of North Carolina, so it it makes it tough. How do you manage all of that?
I think we all used the Wi-Fi wasn't working on the bus. I think we all threw that excuse in there a time
Absolutely.
or two. But
Yeah, your professors watching are like, yeah, he did a couple times.
They
Bad
probably get real
Wi-Fi.
tired of hearing it, especially from all the athletes on the travel. But it definitely is a grind. Being a student athlete,
Yeah.
it's not easy. The amount of late hours, the study hall hours that we're unfortunately have to do the first time we're back at Western. But it's all really good. You spend a lot of time. A lot of your teammates are very helpful. If you're like struggling in the class, like classwork, you always have those couple teammates who seem to be a little smarter than the others. So they always seem to be willing to help. But yeah, and then it's just a grind of trying to stay on top of the classwork as best as possible.
Yeah.
And then you throw in the morning weights that you get in the fall. I think sometimes we had about like 5:45 in the
Yep.
morning, and it's a grind there,
It's a
but
lot.
it makes it worth it. When you're out there on the field with your best friends and your teammates out there. It's special.
I
Now-
know.
oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, you're not exactly putting your major to use. You spent a lot of time in the Forsyth building.
I did.
Are there any professors, faculty members in that building that really had a positive impact on your time in Cullowhee?
Yeah, so I had a professor, I don't know if he's still there, Patrick Payne was one of the finance professors there, and he was awesome. I always enjoyed his classes. He made them very interesting. He always wore the vest with the
Yes.
suits, which I always thought was awesome. And then, that was like my first major class was like a managing money for financial success. It was, I think, a class he was teaching there at the time. And I thought it was like, I didn't know much about it. I just chose the major. I was like, hey, this, it's in business. It sounds cool. I'm going to do it.
Money sounds great.
But it was really cool. The way like how like simple and kind of not easy, but like how how approachable he was with the subject, and making sure that kids, at least all the students, had a basic understanding of how to manage money, because like that is like regardless if that's your major or whatever you're doing in life, like that's something you need to
You got to be able to do it.
understand
Yeah.
how to do.
Absolutely.
So I think that intro class was I thought was really fun, and then I had him for a couple other classes as well. So just I think he was I think one of my favorite professors that I had there.
That's awesome.
At some point, Zebby, it must have become a reality for you to consider I could maybe pitch in the majors, and like what did that feel like to you? When did you start thinking maybe beyond college there is a future career for me playing baseball?
Yeah, so my first year at Western, I think COVID kind of happened that season, shut the season short. I was having a decent start to the year there. So then obviously COVID happened, took that time off, came back that next year. And that was my first year being, eligible for the draft. And I got a couple phone calls in the fall and some scouts out there to watch me. And, then ultimately, got hurt, that spring season, which kind of put, all that kind of, on the back burner there. But then, that next year, I did a lot of rehab with, our trainer at the time, Tyler Spain,
Yes.
over the summer.
Yeah.
Did a lot of work with him, and then was able to come back and put together a strong, last season there at Western. And then kind of, interest in the draft kind of grew as I, kept throwing that year. I got off to kind of a slow start, and then kind of switched roles and, got a lot more interest there toward the end. And I wasn't trying to think a whole lot about it. Learning from like other guys like Justice Bigby had just went through the process.
Yeah.
So trying to learn as much as possible from him during his time in the draft process. And then, ultimately got drafted there in the eighth round by Minnesota, and, couldn't be more happy to be here today. So.
What was it like getting that call?
It was funny. So my parents' house is kind of, tucked away in, kind of in the woods. So we don't have great service up there.
Oh.
So I actually, that draft day, I chose to, my wife, Kendall, had an apartment there at the time next to campus. So I chose to stay there. I sat there by myself in her apartment.
Oh no!
I wanted to make sure I had service to get a phone
Right,
call.
of course, yeah.
People don't understand that.
You can't miss
Right.
it.
You can't, like, if I miss a call, it's up next.
That's done.
Yeah, so I wanted to make sure. So I sat there, I had my laptop out, and I was just watching the draft and like taking the phone calls, and I was like, I didn't want to miss anything, so I was
Right.
like, hey, I can't go to my parents' house because service may go out or something, and I'm gonna miss a call, and I can't do that right now. So
You're sitting there.
yeah, so it was. I was hanging out by myself that day, but it was awesome.
That is so funny. Talk to us about, we talked about being a student athlete in college and, being on the road, but that does not compare. I mean, we talk all the time about 57 games in college baseball.
Yeah.
This is a year,
This is
a
a lot more
year-long
than
thing,
57.
right? There's a lot going on in the off season. People think of it, and that's such downtime, but it's really not. What is the biggest difference that you've seen from a baseball perspective going from college to the major leagues?
I think one of the biggest differences, obviously, is the level of talent. Obviously, guys in college are very talented, but when you get up here, especially at this level, all your hitters 1 through 9, they're the best of the best. You're coming in every day and you're gonna face. I think today we got Alex Bregman coming into town, and you're gonna get Trevor Story, and you're gonna get all these guys, these big name guys, and these are guys that I watched throughout high school and college.
Right.
So now it's I show up to the field and I look at the lineup and I'm like, oh my gosh, I watched this guy 8-10 years ago. He was playing in the World Series and I was cheering for him, but now I got to get him out.
Right now, I got to get him out.
It's a tough balance there. I think a lot of young guys kind of get that experience when they come into the league of you see guys that you've kind of watched and you kind of put on this pedestal, growing up, and then now your job is to, either,
Sit them down.
get them out, or, if you're a hitter, get a hit off of them. So it's kind of funny how it all works out, but it's a big adjustment there.
It's a huge adjustment, and I am sure there's got to be a moment where you're on the mound and you realize who you're facing, and you're like, whoa. Like, have there been moments where you just had to shut it out? So we talked about this a little bit with JT Poston, who's on the PGA Tour.
Oh, yeah.
He walks into the locker room at Augusta, right? And oh my gosh, there's Tiger. Oh my gosh, there's Phil. These are the biggest names ever in his sport. And yet when you're out there, when you got your club in your hand, you've got to find a way to tune the noise out. And in golf, there's not a lot of noise. Here, there's a lot of noise. How do you get that out?
I've got two answers to that question. First, what JT does is unbelievable. The amount of pressure. You got all those people watching you hit a golf shot,
right,
lined up on the tee box, and he's able to stripe it down the fairway.
And you can't shank it.
It's unbelievable.
You can't shake it. Or kill anybody, which is what I would do.
That's right.
Because I've seen the Baseball Alumni Week in golf, and we would be putting a lot of people in danger there.
You're keeping Titleist in business, aren't you?
Yeah, we're buying balls at the turn more times than we need to be. But yeah, so my welcome to the big league moment, it was my debut was against the Royals, and I saw Salvador Perez get in the box, and he's not a small human being. He's very tall, got a very good presence about him. So he stepped in the box, and I remember I was standing on the mound, and I looked at him, and I was like, oh my gosh,
this guy's huge.
I was like, where do I pitch this guy? I was like, this is nuts. It was crazy seeing him in the box. Just how just the way he obviously his reputation. He's one of the best catchers there was. So he's just his presence there was like it took me back. I had to really oh my gosh, okay, breathe, slow everything down the best I could. Obviously it was very hard. The heart was racing during that whole day.
Yeah.
But that, and then my next start was in San Diego, and then if you haven't got to experience the game in San Diego, you need to go. Sells out every night. It was loud. It was crazy, and then obviously they have a lot of big names in the lineup. Manny Machado got in the box, another future Hall of Famer. Seeing him in the box, and then Xander Bogaerts, throwing to him. It was a lot of that again was trying to learn how to pitch out there, but also be very appreciative, of where I'm at. It's kind of like the balance of, okay, you want to, take it all in, soak it all in, but you also want to go out there and compete.
Yeah,
so
of course,
it's that fine balance of, trying to do both.
I always used to enjoy hearing about Kyle Hendricks and the professor, right?
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
and just hearing about how he studied the batters. Walk us through like your strategy of prepping for a game. I mean, you just had a fantastic game last
Yeah.
week,
Yeah.
and and everybody's watching. Like, how do you go? How do you approach that strategically and get ready for that?
Yeah, so that's something I'm still trying to get a lot better at. Young guys when they come in the come to the league, I don't think many of us are very confident in our ability to trust scouting reports. So that's something we lean on a lot of the veterans here to kind of help us with. But we get a lot of reports, a lot of data, and then you kind of just pick through that data and you do your best to write out a plan for the hitter, and then but you still have to be able to like read the game and understand the situations of the game. So you have that scouting report, you have all the information you could ever want on a hitter, but then you also have to be able to read the game and be like, okay, like especially when you see him a second or third time through the lineup, it kind of goes from like the science of pitching to the art of pitching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like something like like guys like Greg Maddux, they did really well for their whole career was just kind of like picking apart hitters based on what they had done in previous at bats. So it's something that a lot of, I know me personally, and I'm trying to get a lot better at and get a lot more comfortable with.
Yeah.
So it's that fine balance of taking the science and the data part of it with the game and like the art of pitching and trying to blend and combine the two.
It's a really interesting distinction
Yeah.
too, because baseball especially is one of those sports where you have the sabermetrics. You have like they can tell you exactly how many times the guy hits it to that square
Yeah.
foot of turf, like, and almost to the point of absurdity, right? And yet at the same time, baseball, and I say this as a lifelong baseball fan, it's the most. Sam and I were talking about it earlier. It's so easy to romanticize baseball, man.
Yeah.
This is a beautiful American story
Yeah.
that happens out here every single night, and every game. I mean, it's a showdown between a pitcher and a batter, and so there's got to be art. Like you can't math your way out of this. I say this as an English major, so, but you can't math your way out of it, right? Like, yes, I know that this many times out of this many times he's going to do this, but I'm feeling it. I got to do this, right? And so you've got to be able to feel confident and make those decisions. So in the organization, I'm curious how you guys support each other, how you mentor each other. Do you have somebody you go to just to say, tomorrow I got to do this, and what do you think?
Yeah, I think in baseball, I think a lot of the veterans, the guys that have been around, I think they do a really good job of helping out the young guys as best as they can, because I think they kind of remember when they would come into the league, as rookies or very young guys, how much they needed to lean on the older guys in the clubhouse. So it's kind of like you lean on the older guys and you get comfortable, and then you kind of learn, and then whenever you get comfortable up here, and then young guys come in, like you kind of step into that mentoring role. Mm-hmm. But we have a tremendous clubhouse here. A lot of guys are very willing and very approachable, to help in any way that you can. Guys like Pablo are very good about that. Pablo, Chris, like the whole starting rotation is awesome. Anytime we all kind of converse throughout the game, we're talking whether it's strategies or whether it's what we're kind of seeing out there, what we're working on throughout the week. It's constant conversation of just trying to help each other out as best as possible.
That's cool. We're here on a non-game day, so that's
For you.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, a game day, not for you. But what's a typical game day if you're pitching? What does that look like? What do you do to prepare yourself? Like, do you have the rituals? It's like, you're a baseball player. We know you've got some superstitions tucked in there and rituals somewhere, right? But what does that look like? How do you, on a game day where you're pitching, how do you get yourself ready for that start?
Yeah, so it's funny you say that. I am the least superstitious baseball person you're ever gonna meet.
Oh, come on.
I don't.
Really?
I'm not like. As much as I love a good having my routine,
Yeah.
and like some guys I need to wear the same pair of socks, or I gotta eat this, I gotta eat the same the same meal the night before. Like that's just not me. I don't care enough about all that kind of stuff. I don't think it has any effect on how I'm gonna do
Don't
out
say
there.
that too loud.
But yeah, it's funny because there's so many I know guys They have to eat, like whether there's like shrimp tacos the night
Yeah.
before
Right.
or something, whatever
Right.
it may be. And I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm going to eat whatever I'm feeling that night.
Right,
And enjoy
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so game day routine is, for me, I sleep in as long as possible. Unless it's day game,
Yeah.
night game, I'll sleep, kind of as late as possible. And wake up, kind of move around. I don't like to sit. I don't want to sit around all day because then I get the field and I can feel kind of sluggish. So I want to move around in the morning, and then I'll show up to the field. Usually like 4 hours before the game, sometime around there, and then I kind of hang out. Walk around. I know a lot of guys, a lot of starters. They like to put in their headphones, play their music, not talk to anybody. Again, I can't be that guy because I feel like I get mentally exhausted if I'm trying to stay locked in all day. I feel like by the time third, fourth inning rolls around, I'm just like I'm gone.
Yeah.
I don't have anything left.
Yeah.
So it's I kind of just talk, like hang out, walk around, and then I'll start getting ready for the game, and definitely got to get your caffeine in there before you go out there. But then you go out there, and then it's just it's full on attack mode, from pitch one. But yeah, I'm not a huge superstition guy. I like my routine, but if something doesn't, if I have to alter my routine for any way, it doesn't. I'm not all,
It's not like,
worried about
the
it,
whole
yeah.
night's
Right.
done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not how it is for me.
I had
but-
Cheerios instead of Captain Crunch, so I can't do anything.
Yeah,
right?
it's nothing like that for
Yeah,
me.
yeah. Zebby, you've dealt with an injury this season,
Yeah.
a shoulder strain. You had talked about rehabbing an injury in college at Western. How do you, like as a pitcher, we hear a lot about it in Major League Baseball too, the stress on pitchers both physically and mentally. How do you work through something like that where you've got to take time off and not do the thing that you love to do to give your body the right amount of healing?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely tough. I think all athletes, but I think especially baseball players, we take a lot of pride in, how we take care of our body every day. From like the food we eat to like how hard we train and like the recovery. So whenever you get put on the IL, it's your pride takes a hit.
Sure.
Because it's like I do all these things to try and keep myself healthy, and
Right.
ultimately like it didn't work. But that's just part of it. I think I don't know if there's any professional athletes who have played the game a long time who haven't
Right.
dealt with injuries. I mean, it's just part of the game. So as much as it sucks, it's also a really good kind of like a reset. You can kind of take a little time to kind of just like regroup, kind of like reevaluate some things. Add some things into your routine that you may need to start doing. To come back a little stronger. Or you find some things that you were doing that you don't necessarily need to do, but ultimately when you get in that rehab process, like you've got to come in and you've got to attack that day the same way you would every other day. Whether it's just like little basic exercises that you think are really boring and pointless, those a lot of times hold just as much value as the actual throwing part of your rehab process. So it's
You got to bring that same
it's
discipline.
It's the same mindset every day of coming in and doing all your work, doing it diligently and with full focus and full intent. So when you get back out there, you're ready to go again.
Talk with us a little bit about when you are going through those. You've had a very similar support system
Yeah.
from your college injury and going through that you have now. But talk with us a little bit about that. I mean, it's not easy. Your wife isn't just sitting at home.
Yeah.
She, so what is that, what is that like? Who all is a part of your support system, and what does that mean to you?
Yeah, so I'm lucky. I feel like I have a really good support system. Whether it's, my wife, she's very supportive. She's awesome. She is always willing to help in any way that she can.
Class of 2023, by the way.
Yes.
We got to point this out.
Yes.
Double alumni family.
Yeah, another Western grad.
That's right.
But yeah, she's awesome. She's, the baseball lifestyle isn't always easy.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned this on the phone when we talked, like the spouses, I don't think they ever get enough credit for the amount of sacrifice that they have to
Yeah.
make for us to be able to come out here every day and do what we love. I look at, guys, especially with kids, like the wives are always with the kids, kind of, entertaining them, taking them around, taking care of them at the ball games every day. So it's, they don't get enough credit that they deserve. So she's awesome. And then, my family's very supportive. They always come out and visit. They're always, calling, checking in. And then I have a really good group of friends, from college you know, a lot of my former teammates, so they're always like, after every start, it's funny, I get like so many texts after every start, but it's awesome. I love it because it's, you know, everyone's like checking in, you know, whether it's like a good or bad start, like I can
Right.
always count on those people to be like checking in, you know, encouraging me, or, you know, telling me they're proud of me, whatever it may be. So, you know, it's awesome to have that kind of support because it, you know, it really goes a long way, you know, especially when times are going tough.
We talked on the phone about, you know, Coach Mo and, you know, that ongoing constant relationship that you guys have. I mean, we won't talk about your wedding, but you know, it just goes to show, right? Like, you know, he's still there and he is following every pitch, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, when you were talking about that, it was kind of neat to hear that it means a lot to you to have that.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. You know, he's truly one of a kind because it's not just, you know, with my career, it's with everybody he's coached or ever like had any sort of relationship with. Like he's all in. He's going to support you and help you in any way that he can, and that's just like the kind of person that he is, and like that's why he had, you know, so much success as a college coach. I think he was coached for like 34 years. So, you know, to have him, you know, kind of in your corner, kind of backing you up, it's awesome.
I think something that's very remarkable to me is the connection that baseball alumni have with each other. It's a very tight-knit group of people. We see them come back to Cullowhee all the time for a reunion weekend. So I'm sure that there are a lot of text messages that you get, like, and you get a lot of opportunities to hear from those teammates.
Oh, yeah.
Do you keep in touch with the current team?
I try to. You know, the coaching staff is, you know, changed a little bit, but I do know the coaching staff there, and you know, I think some of my former teammates are, you know, kind of helping out there.
Yeah.
So, you know, you know, when they're playing, you know, I think I check almost every score after every game, just because, you know, I feel like, you know, it's, you know, I want to see them succeed, you know, I think just as much as anyone else, and I think all the alumni kind of feel that way. You know, once you kind of play at Western, you know, it really is a special place. So, you know, we want to see, you know, not just the baseball team, but like all of, you know, athletics in the university, you know, kind of continue to grow, you know, and to be, you know, very competitive in all the sports, and, you know, and draw the, you know, that, you know, those students, you know, to come there, you know, every year. And I think it's truly one of the more special places I think you can go to school. So, you know, just that, you know, we're always one to, you know, help in any way that we can.
It's fun to see so many of you guys. I mean, you talked about it. So many of your teammates are, you know, in the minor leagues and playing. You know, we've got some over in Japan playing and watching Gavin and Stocum, you know, start their coaching career, right? And you know, at the base of that and building that foundation. And it's awesome to see how all of you guys still keep in contact, support each other, you know, regardless of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Come back for alumni weekend in the fall.
Yeah.
Maybe play some bad golf. And
a little bit.
Yeah. And, you know, and mingle and be back together. And it's awesome from an alumni engagement perspective.
I love it.
To be able to watch
I think
that
it's
and be a part of it.
and also I know it's got to be really tough given your line of work, Zebby, but coming back to that stadium, to Hennon Stadium, with the mountains in the background, I always think we have one of the greatest outfield. This is pretty good. this is really good. But I think that the view from our outfield is pretty good. So this is weird, but like two guys from Smoky Mountain High School are playing in Major League Baseball right now. Two guys from Jackson County, North Carolina. One of them only is an alum, but you know, like that's when I stopped and thought about that. Like the odds of that happening have to be really wild. Like unless you went to like baseball high school or something, but like there's a ton of kids in the Little League program. There are a ton of kids who are pulling so hard for you guys, who are wearing that Smoky Mountain Mustang jersey or the Catamount jersey too. But like, what would you tell those kids who are out there playing club baseball, who are out there on the diamond, right off 107 across from Ingalls? Every alumnus knows exactly that baseball stadium. What would you tell that kid who looks up to you and says, you've reached the pinnacle?
You know, there's a lot, you know, to tell them, but, you know, I think the biggest thing is, you know, to always, you know, work hard, regardless of what you're doing. You know, like I said, like I was a very late bloomer in high school. So, opportunities for me at, a lot of, I think baseball, but I think athletes in general, like, they get recruited as freshmen and sophomores in high school.
Yeah.
And that wasn't me.
Right.
Everybody's process is very different. So, I, dealt with a lot of like discouragement, those first 2 years of high school. Cause like, a lot of my friends, that I played travel ball with were always getting recruited. I was, one of the smaller guys out there at the time. So
you were one of the smaller guys.
Yeah, I was. So it was always kind of, tough to, kind of watch that and see that. But,
I'm just having a hard time believing that.
Yeah,
I mean, you're taller than me. So
we talked down there in the clubhouse. Guys were like, oh, you must have played football in high school. I was like, no, if you saw me in freshman year of high school, you would have picked on me.
I love it. Carson talks about that.
Oh
Carson
my
and I talk
gosh.
about that, and he, and I'll never forget you walking in the door at Scotty and Josh's, and Carson says, "Mom, Zebby is jacked. What happened to him?" And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, so it was a. Yeah, I just tell them to work hard because you never know, kind of when something will click. Especially in baseball,
Yeah.
and pitchers specifically. Like, you can be. I watched it at Western multiple times of guys throwing bullpens, and then like something just clicks for them,
Yeah.
and then it's like their career just kind of skyrockets, and so it's all no matter like your current situation or how things are going, like you've got to kind of put your head down and be a little stubborn. And when people say like, oh, you may not be good enough, or like you need to probably have a backup plan.
Yeah.
Respectfully tell them no and be like, hey, like I want this. I'm gonna put my head down. I'm gonna work because like you never know when something will just click, and then next thing you know you're sitting here. So it's awesome.
We've walked through your career, Smoky Mountain, Walter State, Western, to get here. When you look back at what you've done to get to where you are today, what makes you the most proud?
Gosh. Honestly, I think just the amount of time and effort that I put in each day, to see that kind of like pay off, to get here is something I don't think I can ever take for granted. I always kind of took pride in how hard I worked. The amount of hours I spent out there as a young kid, out there with my dad at the Little League fields out there at Fairview, and then the amount of time I took was fortunate enough to be able to to go to like some lessons with Todd Raleigh and Eric McConnell over there. So I was fortunate enough to be able to do that. So I spent countless hours on baseball as a young kid, and then through high school. I would show up, early to the weight room with Coach Tyler Klippa was there at the time. Very fortunate to have him because he would also, be willing to show up there early. So, me and then I had a couple other friends that I would work out with there, before school. So I think just the amount of time that I put in, I kind of think, I kind of, took a breath, when I got drafted because it was like, okay, like, that's, kind of when I was like, okay, like, not that I made it, but it was kind of like a good, like, okay, like, all that hard work, kind of paid off to kind of get to this point. Not that the hard work stopped or by any means, but it's like, kind of like that, okay, like, kind of like a little bit of, satisfaction of like, okay, like, this part of your dream is, has come true.
And it's got to be motivating,
Yeah.
right? That it did.
Yeah,
I mean, the number of guys who work just that hard and never make it.
Yeah.
And you know that. You
Yeah.
know what the odds are. Mm-hmm. And so it has to be motivating when you got that call, you got that draft, and and you did it. And now to your point, the hard work doesn't stop, but it has to motivate you to keep going so that you stay here and you make your career of it.
Yeah, no, it definitely doesn't stop. As much as you want to take some days off or take some days a little easier than others. Like the way I'm kind of wired, I can't do that.
Right.
I feel like a lot of times I probably do too much. But that's kind of how I would rather it kind of be that way for me.
Yep.
I always kind of feel like there's something I could be doing to get better. Each and every day. So I kind of approach it that way. But for the guys that feel like they work hard and it doesn't work out, like there's still a lot to be said. Kind of about the character of the person. Kind of their mold and their kind of the way they're built to be able to work that hard every day. And maybe that career or that path doesn't work out for them, but I think that it builds a lot of character, and it carries them throughout their life.
Absolutely.
So Stacy and I have some fun questions for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fun, I think. So Mariano Rivera would come out to Enter the Sandman.
Yeah.
Charlie Sheen in Major League would enter the field to Wild Thing.
Yeah.
What's your walk-up song or your pump-up song to get you hyped?
So I have a wide taste in music.
Yeah.
I enjoy country music, you know, being from the mountains.
Sure.
You know, I grew up listening to country music. So for me, like, I always root at country music. I like Christian music. Honestly, anything but like the newer rap for me, I'm good with.
You're good with it. You just
Anything
pick
else.
anything.
But yeah, so a walk-up song for me, like, it changes so much. I think in college, I think at some point I had Shania Twain as a walk-up song, which was, you know, probably, you know, not the best look, but it worked out really well for me because, you know, Man, I Feel Like a Woman probably isn't the choice.
I was gonna say it.
Probably isn't the choice for most people as a walk-up song, but I came out and, I think I was coming out of the bullpen at the time, and the thought behind it was, you know, very high pressure situations. I needed something to kind of make me relax,
Right.
kind of, you know, get back to, you know, my normal kind of self. Because I'm not like, I may come off as a very serious person, but I'm not by any means.
Meanwhile, there's some guy like from VMI over there with the bat.
Yeah, so it's
Like,
funny.
what the-
So I alternate between a lot. I think this year I started out with a Luke Combs song. You know, I've done a lot of stuff. I think I had the I Don't Care. I love it. I think I had that song at one point in college. I had Fat Bottom Girls in high school. So it's been a wide variety of songs, but it honestly, like, my music, like, every day I come in and I listen
Just
to kind
fun
of
stuff.
just whatever. So, you know, I'm usually not the guy people want on the aux because you never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Which can be a good and bad thing, but there's no consistency with, you know, what I'm listening to.
We're gonna put the Zebby Matthews walk-up song in the show notes, like the whole playlist.
That's right.
We're gonna do
We're
it on
gonna make a whole playlist of
Spotify.
it.
Download
Yeah.
it on the WCU Spotify account. It'll be there, I'm sure.
So you spend every day at work trying to sit people down.
Yeah.
But you talked about, you know, the SoCon being a hitter's league, right? If you were to flip those roles and you could hit a home run off of anyone in Major League Baseball right now, who would you choose?
It's a good one.
Gosh. Honestly, just because, you know, they've had such an established career, I think I would go like guys like Kershaw, Scherzer, or Verlander.
Yeah.
Just because they've done it for so long, and, you know, they're all, you know, first ballot Hall of Famers without a
Right.
doubt. So I think, you know, sneaking one in off them would be cool. But then, like, you look at some of the new guys, you know, like Paul Skeens is in in the league, and Tariq Skubal, like some of those guys who, you know, they're just throwing 100, and it's, you know, they have some of the nastiest pitches.
Yeah.
You know, and hitters every day, like, they struggle to get home runs.
Yeah.
You know, off of them. So to take one of them, get one of them would be special. But I can't say this enough. I am so happy I don't have to hit. As cool as we all pitchers, you know, kind of fantasize, you know, I could get in the box and, you know, I take the biggest swing and I connect on one, and, you know, I'm like, there's just no way. I haven't got an AB since high school.
I was going to ask,
Right.
when was the
And,
last time you did?
And, you know, I might have, you know, some of the best fastballs I saw were probably, you know, low 90s.
Right.
So, you know, to come
Right.
out here and, you know, try and time up a upper 90s fastball and then, you know, sit on the slider, I would strike out in 3 pitches. And I think almost every time.
Oh my gosh! Do your arms even work that way? Like, do they rotate in that direction? Like, it'd be
For a golf swing, yeah. Again, I'm not the best golfer, but we try our best. You know, shout out to JT.
yeah.
Doing what he
Thank you,
does,
JT.
Just let him take care
It's
of it,
awesome.
right?
Yeah, but
He's probably like, I couldn't throw a ball. So
that's it. If he wants to come back to, you know, the alumni weekend for baseball and get a good laugh,
Yeah.
watch
Yeah,
all of
yeah,
us
yeah.
try and golf. It's comedy. It really is.
We were talking earlier about how fun it would be to just sit in a box, in the batter's box, and feel what a 90-something odd mile an hour fastball
Fun
feels
and
like.
scary.
Oh, it'd be
we
terrifying.
definitely made a note
Yeah.
of how terrified we would be
Right.
of your 96 mile an hour fastball
I'd have to
coming
change
out
my
of hand.
pants after that. Like, there's
It
no
would
way.
be fun, though. It would be fun.
Whew, I'd have to wear like a football helmet to feel. I mean, because it's right in front of you. It's just
So you're,
insane.
you know, secretly, you know, quite a comedian. But who would you say is the funniest teammate that you've played with in your time?
Jack Snyder,
Yeah.
hands down, not even close. I can't tell you the amount of times, you know, I feel like most, you know, group chats you have of like your team in college, like it's very serious. Hey, like here's the practice schedule.
Right.
Here's, what we're doing. Or you may send out like, a scouting report in there. Ours couldn't have been farther from that. It was, Jackson in a random video of him doing something or
Something stupid.
and then Tristan Campbell's just, egging him on over there. And it like if I need a good laugh, like I'll just scroll through that and just look at like some of the dumb stuff that we would send in. And
I can't wait to see what that group thread looks like after he watches this because he's still causing trouble.
yeah, Jack is by far the funniest teammate I think I will ever play with. It's just I just wish more guys would get to experience him on an everyday kind of level, because we always joked about in college, like, people make a career out of YouTube now. Like you could just follow Jack around with the camera, and he would be the most viewed person ever.
I think we need to put Jack on the Western Wednesdays list, Sam. I think that'll.
He could absolutely
that would be the
make a career out of YouTube.
He could.
Oh my gosh,
he's awesome.
Zebby, what would be a fun fact or something that people would be just surprised to learn about you from off the field, away from baseball?
Off the field. Oh, geez. I don't know.
Do you do other things? Like
I try to golf. Not the best at it.
Yeah.
I try. Maybe JT can give me some lessons or somebody. I enjoy golf. I enjoy playing video games. As much as I think parents, are going to hate hearing that.
Wait a minute. Can you play yourself?
So I don't I don't play MLB The Show. As much as tempting as it may be to want to, I played that as a kid.
That would be weird.
I think the last baseball game I played was like on the old PS2 with Joe Mauer on the cover, which is funny because
here we are. Yeah, right here.
That was the last one I think I played. But I play a lot of NHL.
Oh, really?
A lot.
Moonlights as a hockey player.
Jack Snyder, also a very good NHL player, so can't take him yet, but I think I'm above average at that game. But yeah, as much as parents probably hate hearing like what do all these professional athletes do? Majority of them play video games.
It's competitive.
It's something they just do. After games, before they come to the field, like it's not them. We all enjoy it. So it's again, like I'm sorry for all the parents that are going to hear that. Because then their kids are gonna be like, Carlos Correa, he plays video games. Yeah, it's awesome. We enjoy it. So
you're getting your outdoor time.
We are.
Like, you're putting in the work, man.
I'll say this: kids need to take care of all the other things before they play video games.
That's right.
That's very
a part of the
responsible
discipline.
of you to say that.
That's well done. Well done. Last question off the list: pitch clock. Yeah,
I'm all for it.
You like it?
Yeah. So as much fun as baseball is, the 4-hour games can kind of drag on for a lot of fans.
Boy, did they.
And especially with kids, trying to, get kids interested in the game.
Right.
4 hours is a long time for them to sit and watch a game.
Especially for like a 7 o'clock first pitch, right?
It is.
Like you're going to be in there. Yeah.
Or if you're like, you're playing in Atlanta and it's, a 1 o'clock game and it's 100 degrees outside.
Or if you're playing in Minneapolis yesterday.
As it turns out,
it's also hot here.
And it's 100 degrees on a Sunday.
It's not like that here. The weather's usually very nice.
The kids, though, to your point, right? Like they're good for a couple of hours, but I mean, yesterday the Twins had you run the bases for kids, and those kids want to run the bases.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, so I'm all for the pitch. I work fast on the mountain anyway, so it's I'm all for it, and I think majority of guys that play, like, I don't think they mind it, but it's I think it just helps with the audience, especially with kids.
Sure.
With TikTok, whatever's out there. Like an attention span for a kid is
it's already gone.
10 seconds, maybe
right.
15. Then they're like, oh, I need a new video.
Yep.
So to try and if we're trying to grow the game and get kids wanting to play and pursue it, then I think it's something that's necessary.
Zebby, if we could get into a time machine and find you. I mean, not that long ago, walking out onto the mound at Hennon Field, and you could take a minute and just run up beside you and put your arm around yourself and give yourself a little bit of wisdom, knowing what you know now, what would you tell Zebby as he's walking up to pitch the first time for WCU?
Don't take it for granted. I mean, it's those times there were really special. Some of my favorite memories of playing baseball and just being a part of the team are at Western. We didn't obviously win the championship like we wanted to, like our goal every year, but I think just the relationships that that we all kind of build together there, with the coaches, with each other, with all the support staff. I truly think that like that those times will go down as some of my favorite that I've ever had to experience on a baseball field.
Zebby, we're so proud of you. We're so grateful for the time today here at Target Field. We're so excited to watch you as you continue your career here with the Twins and in Major League Baseball. So thank you for making time for us here on Western Wednesdays.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for having me.
Man.
That was so much fun.
I was going to say, I feel like a woman.
You feel like that too.
That's the answer to the trivia question. I applaud the choice. There's a lot of things that you could do.
That's right.
Shania Twain was not what I was expecting.
No,
whatsoever.
that was not on your bingo card.
No,
for
it was
Zebby
not
Matthews.
Oh my
as
gosh.
many people, and Zebby even talked about it, right? You heard him say most people think that he's this well buttoned up, polished,
because he's so quiet. He's very serious,
reserved guy,
but he doesn't take himself seriously.
And then he busts out Shania Twain.
Oh my gosh! I tell you what,
that was fantastic. What a great time with Zebby and hearing his Western story. I mean,
yeah, and I love how he had to overcome adversity with rehabbing injuries and finding his way to WCU and then the majors. It was a great story.
That's right, and how that prepared him, for where he is now. He's battled some injury this season. He's had a little bit of a tough time, with the shoulder, and so. As much as there are so many other things that prepared him for where he is and what he's doing, being able to go through that. And he talked a lot about his support system that he had here and how they have stayed with him. Obviously, not only his wife, I'm glad that Kendall stuck with him too. But, but in there, he talked about his teammates. He talked about former coaches, and how, they got him through it this season as well. So.
Yeah. It was also great to hear his perspective too on Southern Conference baseball and I don't know if Zebby is ever going to get a chance to stand behind the plate and swing the bat, but it's a good thing he doesn't have to.
That's right. It's a good thing I don't have to stand behind the plate.
Yeah, that's my only regret.
With him pitching either.
It was such a great trip to go to Target Field and a great experience, and thanks to the Minnesota Twins for being incredible hosts to us. But I did think it would be quite a life experience to stand at home plate and let Zebby throw a zinger at us. And that didn't happen. I would have to be like in a football outfit, a full face helmet.
Yeah, I told Zebby I wanted to do that when he comes back to Cullowhee, but I would like to do it behind the L screen, please.
Right. Oh my gosh. Oh, well, it's October. The leaves are beautiful outside.
Yes.
And oh my gosh. It is a great time to come back to Cullowhee, and we've got a couple of chances to do that coming up.
Absolutely. We have a full calendar of events for alumni and friends. So October 11th is our next home football game.
Furman's coming to town.
And so are our heroes. We're going to celebrate heroes past and present. And looking forward to that. One of the big things we've got that weekend in the alumni engagement side is our EMS 60th anniversary celebration.
Huge deal. If you don't know about the EMS program here at Western, it is such a strong program. Our Vice Chancellor, Ben Pendry, loves to talk about how, the role that Western plays in this region, in the state of North Carolina. And he'll say things like, find me a hospital that will give up its WCU medical professionals.
That's right.
Find me a school system that'll give up its WCU teachers. And that EMS program has put out a lot of really great catamounts in 60 years. So happy anniversary to that program.
Yeah, we're going to get on the road after that and head down to Charleston, down to the
Country.
Low Country. That's right. So if you're looking for a weekend in Charleston just as much as I am, feel free to come and join us football at the Citadel, October 18th.
You're just going to warm up.
It's going to be great.
Are you going to have any crawfish, do you think?
I will absolutely go find me some shrimp and grits. Who
That's
goes
not
to
what I
Charleston
said.
without that? I heard what you said, but we're going to go have shrimp and grits in the Low Countries. What we're going to do. We just had an away tailgate at Wake Forest where we were 275 strong.
Look at that. And this
right.
beautiful koozie here. I don't know. We'll put this in
Where
the
we
show
broke it
notes.
out.
Yeah, this is this is a giveaway at Wake Forest. It was really cool, though. I think we had a great
Yeah.
time. I think we had a bigger crowd than Wake Forest at one point.
That's for sure.
I mean,
Absolutely.
true story, guys. If you want to know the truth, the Wake Forest people came over and took pictures of our
That's right.
tailgate. So that's
Yeah.
an absolutely true statement.
That's right. Tell us about homecoming, James.
Homecoming
It's coming up before we know it.
soon. Friday night parade party.
Yeah.
We talk about this a lot. Downtown Silva. Parade will happen. It's going to be like right at twilight. So get there early, stake out your position, watch the marching band. They're always at the end. And then live music. We got all
right.
kinds of different places downtown in Silva. It'll be a great time. And then Saturday morning, Alumni Awards brunch. It's really a tailgate brunch, though. It's going to be a good party.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time. We're going to have some mimosas and pre-tailgate celebration. And we have 13 Alumni Award winners that we're going to be celebrating and recognizing at that. So excited about that. And pairing homecoming back to this Western Wednesdays episode, we have baseball alumni coming back
That's right.
that weekend. So that's going to be exciting.
Have a big crew, I'm sure.
Yeah. And then we're also going to be celebrating the women of Alpha Kappa Alpha Incorporated.
There you
sorority.
go.
Make sure I get that in there. Their 50th anniversary here in Cullowhee. So we're going to have a weekend packed full of stuff.
One of the
It's exciting.
things I see this again and again, and I saw it when we were down in Winston-Salem at the Wake Forest game, pulled into the parking lot, getting ready to go over to the tailgate that we were setting up. And there were so many other Western people out there on their own, doing their own thing. Great to see the energy showing up for Western, for football, but for other things too. Western folks getting together. So
Yeah, and make sure when we talk about the back to the homecoming parade party really quick, let's
Yeah.
don't get out without mentioning this. But for the Friday night party, be sure that you register. It's only $5 to register, and the first 500 registered alumni will get the commemorative Social District Cup for 2025 homecoming.
you
So
have the best tchotchkes.
this one we are really excited about. It's going to be a great Social District Cup, and it actually is going to be something for everyone.
This is a true story. Like every time Stacy cooks something up, I'll walk around a tailgate with it. I get them a week or two ahead of time, and then somebody will say, "Well, where did you get that?"
That's
and,
right.
And I'll say, "Well, you got to show up to our stuff, and maybe you'll
Absolutely.
get one too." So
It'll be a great time.
It'll be a great time. Well, you've done it again. You've spent an hour. I don't know if it's been an hour, but it's been a considerable
time.
amount of your time, and thank you for spending it with us here at Western Wednesdays. Thanks as always. Thanks again to the Minnesota Twins, to Zebby,
Yes.
their whole crew up there. Great job hosting us up there. It was so wonderful. Thanks to Kendall, who spent a little time with us as well. We have to say thanks to our intrepid producer, Sam Wallace, for putting up with us.
Traveling all over with us.
And executive producer credit to Carson Miller, who helped us cook up some things. So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
That's
thank
great.
you, Carson, for that. And tune in next month, guys. We got a great Veterans Day episode with one of my favorite catamounts of all time, Larry Naylor.
Can't wait.
In November
gonna
on
be
Western
great.
Wednesdays. We'll see you next time. Until then, go
Go Cats.